Danielle at Great Lakes Aquarium, and today I am coming to you from our Discovery Center here within the aquarium. And this is actually a closed off part of the aquarium that you could host birthday parties, weddings, meetings, all sorts of great things. But today we're using it to discover density. So density is often used when talking about how compact something is. So something super dense, you can kind of think of it as heavy, though that's not the word we typically use. It's just that the molecules are very compact to each other. So why talk about it here at the aquarium? Well, I'll tell you. So, man, I'm just so excited, Abby. In front of me, I have some tools that we're going to be experimenting with density. And here at the aquarium, we see density change all the time when it comes to water temperature and water salinity. Today we're not using salinity, but instead we're using sugar, but the concept's going to be pretty similar. And then we also have our little friend here, a little miniature scuba diver, to help show what I mean by the density in regards to scuba diving. Because we do a lot of diving here at the aquarium, whether it's in the exhibits or even out in Lake Superior. So density plays a big part of that in our buoyancy, or how we're able to float and move within the water. So this experiment, what we're going to take is our different dense solutions, and we're going to put them into this one jar and see what happens. Ideally, it's going to make a rainbow of sorts. So we have our water, and we used warm water, so that way we could allow the sugar to get into the water, dissolve completely. And then we made them different colors so we could tell which is which. The first one we have is this blue one. This is our most dense solution. So this has about 8 tablespoons of sugar. And we just use regular sugar you could put in your coffee or lemonade or anything like that. And we measured it into here. And you can tell it looks pretty dense, like that. Ooh, radio's still on. The next one we have is this one here. This is the green one. This only has about 6 tablespoons of sugar. And you can see it's a little bit lower than the blue one, so we can see that it's not as dense. Next we have the yellow one, and this has 4 tablespoons of sugar. And lastly we have red. This only has 2 tablespoons of sugar. So you can kind of see them all lined up. They get a little bit smaller in size. That's pretty neat, just like that. And then our scuba diver. Our scuba diver doesn't have a name yet, but if you have any good suggestions for our scuba diver, feel free to put them in the comments below. All right, so first up, we're going to take the blue, our densest solution, and we're going to pour just some here at the bottom, like so. Kind of looks like a melted popsicle. Don't you think, Abby?
I do.
Should we do a little more?
Yeah. It even poured in a lot smoother than I think regular water would.
Yeah. All that sugar in there.
You can kind of see how thick it is. Yeah. Pretty cool.
All right, so the next step, we have our compostable straw. And I don't want to just pour it straight onto the blue solution, because that'll mix it up right away. Instead, I just want to put it on top. So I'm just bringing it up in the straw like so. And I'm slowly going to drop it in. Oops. See if I can get more in my straw each time. There we go. So we can already start to see a little bit of that separation. And the idea is that things that are more dense will sink. Things that are less dense will float. So as scuba divers, if we want to go to the bottom of the lake or bottom of the ocean, we want to try and make ourselves as dense as possible. And we can do that in a couple different ways. One is by putting a lot of weight on our scuba diving equipment. So often we'll wear lead weights to help add to our mass. Because density, the equation to figure that out is mass times volume. And the other way we can increase our density is that other half of the equation, so our volume. So by expanding us. It's kind of cool. You can see it like come back up to the surface.
Mm-hmm.
See if we can speed this up even more. Extra cautious. And again, this is an experiment you can try at home. These are all things that you might be able to find. So food coloring, water, clear containers, sugar.
Scuba diver not required.
Scuba diver is not required, but it makes it more fun.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Oh yeah, you can definitely see that
Oh,
separation.
yeah.
I don't know how to make it go faster or anything.
It's a slow experiment.
Yeah,
Lots of time to talk about density.
I love density.
It's pretty cool.
Did you know when you're in the water and you're trying to be super dense, sometimes I just think that I'm a rock.
Does that work?
No, but sometimes I try it.
Method acting?
Yeah.
Might work. Yeah, really cool. You can see that green kind of dripping into the blue there, and then it pops back up because it's much less dense than that blue.
Yep. And you could do this experiment also with temperatures. So another thing that affects density in the water is warm water and cold water. So cold water is much more dense than warm water. And you might have noticed this if you're swimming in a lake and you go out to a certain point and then pretty soon it's really, really cold by your feet. That's that nice, cold, dense water underneath the warm water.
I think that's a good amount of green.
Think that's good?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, cool. All right, I think we're getting the hang of it. I think we can start going faster. So now, onto the yellow. So this was the 4 tablespoons of sugar. Density of water is also really important in those lakes that you might be swimming in. So if you think of when the seasons change and the temperatures change, that actually allows the water to flip in the lake, which helps bring good nutrients cycling through. But you can still tell that stratification of the warm and cold water in the lake. Oh yeah. Before it goes super fast.
Oh, yeah, it's looking a little more yellow at the top.
Other things that scuba divers think about with density, and is very much tied with that, is the pressure as well. So you can kind of think of pressure in a similar way to this density. So trying to change your buoyancy so that way you can move throughout the water. If you've ever been to Great Lakes Aquarium and seen our dive program, you might have seen the scuba divers changing the volume of air on them as to find the right amount of buoyancy, because you don't want to just be sitting on the bottom the whole time. That could cause damage if you're in a sensitive environment, like around corals. So you don't want to be dragging your feet or your fins.
It's definitely looking
yeah,
yellow
it
at the
definitely
top. It's not showing up well on the camera, but it looks way more yellow. So Dee, so you told us about how scuba divers deal with their buoyancy, but how do fish go up and down in the water?
It's a really good question. So it's actually very similar to scuba divers. So many fish have what's called a swim bladder, and that swim bladder is super important to fill with air just like a scuba diver's BC, and it helps them stay buoyant in the water. So they're also adjusting to pressure and salinity, like if you're in brackish water, so that means somewhat fresh, somewhat salty water. So those fish are constantly navigating how to stay buoyant in the waters that they are. But then there's some fish that don't have swim bladders. Some have very fatty livers. So all of that nice fat helps them stay buoyant rather than air, because air is not very dense. Those molecules are not very close together.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah. It's definitely lighter at the top.
Oh yeah, I think we're ready for red. What do you think?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
Do just a little bit more.
Oh yeah, do as much yellow as you want. There you go, now it's really yellow.
Okay, 2 more. 1. Make a count.
And, oh.
2.
There you go, nice. All right.
Oh yeah,
time
there's
for red.
definitely some yellow.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so now we're moving on to our least dense solution, which is the red. Again, if you have a name for our scuba diver here, we would love to give them an identity.
Oh yeah, look at how it's just floating on the top. That's pretty cool.
Abby, have you ever been diving and noticed the difference in temperatures and then the density?
I sure have. I've definitely felt the temperature, especially around here. When you go diving at Great Lakes Aquarium, you definitely notice that it's cold, especially at the bottom. Density is a really weird one. I actually just recently went swimming in the Great Salt Lake, speaking of density.
Whoa.
And it was so weird because you can just lay back and do nothing, and you float right on the top of the water. Most of your body sticks out of the water. Pretty cool.
That's so cool. So you are even less dense than that.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, so the ocean is about, I think, 3.5% salty. And the Great Salt Lake is somewhere about 14 or 15% salty.
Whoa.
So
That's
it's a lot
pretty
more.
wild.
Kind of lost our yellow a little bit.
Yeah, it kind of blends in with the red there.
Yeah. Maybe as it settles, it'll...
Yeah. So, as a review, what we were talking about is density. So it's most dense here at the bottom. So that's where it had most of the sugar. Less dense here at the top. Yeah, there's like a narrow band of yellow.
A little bit of yellow in there.
Yeah, a little bit hard to see. But if we imagine our scuba diver, well, we should put you in proper scuba diving position. Oops.
Oh,
I lost
gotta
your
have the fins.
So as our scuba diver would be coming from the top. So they whoop off the boat. They're going to adjust their air to make sure that they are less buoyant. Yeah, I'm saying that right. Less
Yes.
buoyant, so
Yep.
they can come down here to the bottom. And then, once they are down at the bottom, they're going to try to find neutral buoyancy. So we do this here at Great Lakes Aquarium all the time. So they're going to adjust with how much air they're putting into their BC, so that way they can float along. But if they do move anywhere in that water column, they're constantly having to adjust. Or if they hit different temperature pockets or anything like that, all of that's going to affect that density. So they need to be aware and making sure that they're acting appropriately. Just like that. Right on. That's a cool experiment and something you can definitely do at home. So again, thanks for watching. Definitely try out this experiment. If you do try it out and your yellow turns out more than ours, please post a picture. I'd love to see what you all can put together, because this is pretty neat. Otherwise, thanks again for all the support that we get, whether it's watching these videos, coming into the aquarium, anything like that. Tonight is the first night of our beer garden series, and this is an all-age event. There are non-alcoholic options, alcoholic options, food trucks, everything like that. So if you're interested in an event like that, it's right outside here at the aquarium. Bring your mask, and hopefully see you around here at the aquarium. Otherwise, back here on the videos. Next week we are only doing videos on Tuesday and Thursday, so definitely tune in on those days at 1 p.m.